So I will fully admit I am very much a history snob. I don't like dry history. I don't like inaccurate history. And I want a history that just really breathes a lot of life and resonates with my kids and feels like you just can feel the Lord working through it and that it is His story and that there is just a lot of worldview tied in. I'm very picky. So I am going to talk today all about all of the history curricula that I have tried over the years and kind of where I'm at now. So if this is our first time meeting, hi, my name is Brittany. I am a homeschooling mom of 4 kids, high school down to kindergarten, and I like to talk all things homeschool and homemaking on this channel. I put a post out recently asking for some questions, and there's been a couple of questions that really needed more of their own video. And so I'm going to do a couple of videos that are just specific questions, and then I will do a separate final video that covers all of the questions that were a little bit easier to answer in a shorter time period. So we're going to start at the very beginning. So I started homeschooling my oldest son when he was in 2nd grade. I pulled him out in his 2nd grade year and we immediately jumped into homeschooling. So the first book that we went with, I will pop pictures up, is Mystery of History, Volume 1. Mystery of History, I need to first admit, when I first used this book, because I've used it 3 times, and when I first used this series, I was not actually a believer. One day I'm going to share my entire testimony. I just keep trying to film it and I get a little stuck because my testimony involves other people. And so anyway, when I first started using it, I was not a believer and I was a nominal Christian, so like a Christian in name only. I was your typical, I lived in the Bible Belt my entire life, and so I just said that I was a Christian because that was what you did. When I first started using Mystery of History, I had never read my Bible before. I'd never read a Bible before. I had no idea any of the things that they were talking about. And so I just assumed that that was a problem with me and there was a reason why I wasn't clicking with the curriculum. And so then I dropped that because I didn't think it was a good fit for whatever reason. I just didn't understand it. Fast forward a few years, I had tried a couple of different things and I decided I was going to try it again because I had come to saving faith and I had a little bit more experience, not a ton, but a little bit more experience with the Bible. And I thought maybe it was just the fact that I wasn't a Christian when I first tried it. So I wanted to try it again. And I got into it. And again, it just felt like there was a lot of Bible and not a whole lot of history. And it was very boring. And that was my big problem the first time, was that I found it really boring. And I was still bored with it, which was funny because I'm a very studious person. If you were to ask my pastors or any of my friends in real life, I love to study theology and doctrine and read all of the books. And this was a really boring curriculum to me. I put it away. And then a couple of years later, for some reason, I just kept getting this itch. I wanted to try it again. They had come out with their colored version. So they had colored pictures in it. And I thought maybe that would fix the problem. So I tried it. I got the new version, tried it again. Same feelings. And I have just closed the book and realized it's not a good fit. Mystery of History, if you are not familiar with this curriculum, it is a classical curriculum that is a 4-year cycle. And so you do ancients, you do medieval times, you do modern times, and then more of an early modern times. That's the kind of cycle that they go into. We never made it past ancients because we just couldn't get into it. So Mystery of History is designed to be used from kindergarten through 12th grade, that you can use it with all of your kids. And then it has different things that you would do, different assignments you would give to your older kids and different assignments you would give to your middle kids, different assignments you give to your younger kids. So that way you could sit down and all do the reading together, but everybody would go off and do their individual work, which I was very drawn to because I have a very large age gap. And that ended up not being able to work just because I did not enjoy the book itself. I cannot speak to the upper levels on if it ever got any better. I just know that in Ancients, we went all the way through, and it did feel like it just was not a good history. It felt very much like it was a Bible with a sprinkling of history instead of being a history curriculum that had the biblical timeline running alongside it, which was what I want in my history curriculum. That's my honest opinion with Mystery of History. So after Mystery of History, I've got my notes over here on my computer so that way I don't get off. So after Mystery of History, I didn't like that, and so I decided to try Christian Liberty Press, and they have, I'm gonna put a picture over here, I can't remember the name of it, it's their Pioneers in Something book, and we used that because it was, I think it's grade 2 or grade 3, but I had a second, I think he was still in 2nd grade, or he might have been early 3rd grade whenever we decided to use it, and it was different than I was expecting because it's a lot of people's stories. It follows the stories of children, which actually, looking back on it now, having younger kids and understanding homeschooling a lot better, I really do think that would be a good option to do for a 2nd grader because I think in 2nd grade, first and 2nd grade, you really don't need a very stringent history curriculum. You just want to kind of give them a taste of it. And so I think that it could be a very good fit for that grade. But at the time, I didn't really understand that. I was still very traditional in my mindset. And so it didn't fit exactly what I was looking for because I was wanting history, and this felt like stories, which is funny now as a more mature homeschooler, I can see the value in giving younger children the stories to be able to relate to it better. But on the in the vein with Christian Liberty Press, well, I ended up not sticking with that one because like I said, I was wanting to do something that was like history, not understanding that that was actual history for a 2nd, early 3rd grader. But staying in the vein of Christian Liberty Press, what's funny is now we're actually using Christian Liberty Press because I do 2 streams of history for my younger kids. And we're currently doing Story of the World for world history. And then on Thursday and Friday, we do American history. And so we have a Child Story of America from Christian Liberty Press. And we're actually really enjoying this book. It feels very Charlotte Mason almost in that the whole being written by a single author and having somebody who's very passionate about the subject that they're writing about. It's written very kid friendly, and so my children are really enjoying it. They are actually picking up on it. Not my younger 2 kids, because I have one who's 2nd grade and one who is in kindergarten, and they're not picking up on a ton of it, but my 4th grader is really enjoying the storyline of this particular curriculum. And so I really like it. We are not doing any of the workbooks because I don't do workbooks when it comes to history. We do a lot of narration and then written narration as they get into older grades. And so and then we also do the timeline song from Classical Conversations. Could not remember it. But I really am enjoying this a lot more than I thought that I was going to. So I do recommend that if you're wanting to do an American history, or if you're wanting to do a 2nd stream of history like we're doing for an American history option. I think this is a really good reader for that if you're just wanting to read a little bit of American history. I can't speak to the book work that goes to it because we don't do that. So that's all that I have for that. After we finished up Christian Liberty, well, we didn't even finish it. I think we got halfway through it, and I was not happy. And so I moved into Abeka for grade 3, and I'll put a picture over here on what we were using. And I'm pretty sure it was his 3rd grade year. All of the years seem to blur together when you've been homeschooling for this long. And so, Abeka was closer to what we were looking for. I was looking for something that was very traditional, and that felt Abeka is very, very traditional. But with this particular child, he was the reason I went into Charlotte Mason to begin with. And so I found that we were really struggling with a lot of the book work and keeping up with it. Abeka is very, very, very solid. The writing is excellent. It is a very good program. If you want a traditional textbook history, Abeka is fantastic. But it is a lot of work. And so it's something you have to just keep that in mind going into, that is going to be a little intensive. And so it's not as intensive for you as the parent because you can just assign it and have them do it. But it is going to be an intensive curriculum for your student. And if you are the kind of parent that wants to sit with them while you're doing it, it could be intensive for you as well. But it is a very good curriculum if you want a traditional history curriculum. However, what I found is that I'm not a traditional homeschooler, especially when it comes to history. Around this time was when the Masterbooks craze hit. Masterbooks was very new and it was shiny. And so we went full Masterbooks. I had just learned about Charlotte Mason, and then Masterbooks comes out and it blends traditional and Charlotte Mason. And I came from the public school system, so I was very traditional in my mindset, but drawn to the Charlotte Mason side. And so the fact that this curriculum kind of blended it all together, it was very attractive to me. And so we jumped into Masterbooks. And so with Masterbooks, we did America's Story 1. This was back before they had, I think they have 3 now, but this was back when it was split into 2, I believe. I think, don't quote me on that because I'm pretty sure at that point, we never made it past level 1, so I don't know. But I think they had 2 of the series at that point, and now they have 3. And so the it was it was okay. It was very dry. My son did not get a lot out of it. There was a lot of things that I would read it to him, and then I would have him do a narration, like it has narration prompts in it, and I would ask him to do a narration prompt, and, like, I would just do the narration prompt, and he was like deer in the headlights and could not remember a single thing that we read. And so it it was not exactly what I was envisioning when I was thinking about Charlotte Mason. Though it's written by a single author, it just comes off a little dry. And so I'm not sure why, because it does seem like the author is passionate about what she's writing about, but it didn't click for some reason. And so we made our way through it. And then I'm looking at my notes again. We ended up switching away, and then in year 3 we can not year 3, in his 8th grade year, I needed something to finish out world history, and so I decided to try again and get their year 3 of world story. I'll put that up here, of world story. And so if you're unfamiliar with Masterbooks, Masterbooks has America's Story, which is supposed to be done in elementary school. You go all the way through the years of America's Story. And then in middle school, you go through the 3 years of World Story. And then you would hit world history and American history and all of that in high school. And so that's their plan. We got it. And very quickly, I did away with the worksheets because like I said, I'm not a lover of worksheets in general for history, but this kind of pushed me even to a stronger hatred of worksheets. I don't like the way the worksheets are written, and it was very hard to grade. It was very hard to assign out reading to my 8th grader and then come back and try to grade his assignments because it was hard to track with it. And so it was not my favorite way of doing it. So we ended up moving back into just doing written narration and verbal narration. And so it was okay. He got more out of that one than he did out of America's Story, but it was not his favorite. it was okay enough that we decided to try again for ninth grade. So, because it was somewhat of an easier read for him, and he was not my biggest reader of my kids. And so he got into ninth grade and we moved into their world history. I'll put a picture up. Their world history for high school. And immediately within the first few chapters, I started noticing some inconsistencies when it came to talking about the Americas and the people in Mexico. And so I I took pictures of the passages that were a little bit concerning for me, and I sent them to one of my friends who grew up in Mexico. You know, her whole family is Mexican, and so I said, "Hey, can you just read through this and tell me what you think?" And she was borderline offended, and so I can't even remember what it actually said, so I'm not gonna try to quote it, and I don't have the book anymore. So, do with that what you will. It was just not I found it historically inaccurate, and that started me kind of questioning some more within the curriculum because it was such an inconsistency with what I knew to be true, and so we ended up stepping away from that, and then, very shortly after that, we ended up moving into an online program that I don't recommend, so I'm not gonna talk about it here. And so that was Masterbooks. I don't know if I have very many positives to say with Masterbooks. As a general rule, I'm not a fan of Masterbooks. I'm gonna probably at some point put a video out about that, but just the experience of the curriculum as a whole, there's really not much that I have found within their curriculum that I like. But as far as their history goes, it was a little dry and kind of inaccurate in some places. So that's where we landed on that. After Masterbooks the first time, so I there was a gap there. So then we had moved into Masterbooks and we stuck it out for that first year that we did it when I guess he was probably 5th grade or so whenever we tried Masterbooks, 4th, 5th grade or so. Um, and then after that, I tried Story of the World. Story of the World, I loved. I still love. We still use Story of the World. But I had the issue with it didn't have enough Bible. And I kept on saying over and over again, if I could just blend Mystery of History and Story of the World together into one curriculum, I would be a happy camper. But you can't do that. I mean, you can, it's just a lot of reading. So Story of the World, if you're unfamiliar with Story of the World, to give you a little bit of an overview with it, it is a neutral curriculum. It is not a secular curriculum. You go into the Christian homeschooling groups. I got kicked out of a Christian homeschooling group because I mentioned this curriculum. They made a big stink about it. You're not allowed to talk about secular history. I'm like, it's not a secular history. It's a neutral history. So Story of the World is a neutral history. You will not find a lot of Bible in it. It's very divisive because you will have people who are Christians and they say, "Oh, I see Bible in it." Or you have people who are not Christians and they say, "I see Bible in it." And then you have people who are very much they want Bible threaded all throughout it and they're like, "No, it's too secular." And so what I have found is if you have people on either side that are like warring against whether it's, you know, not Christian enough or too Christian, it's probably somewhere in the middle, which has been my experience. There are a handful of things within Story of the World, and we are working through level 3 that I am not a huge fan of. I am not the biggest fan of the way, just some of the stuff is handled. I do wish that it was more in line with the biblical text from a young earth creation standpoint. As I've been writing my own supplement to go alongside it, there are some things that I don't love how it portrays the timeline in some areas because I think from a creation standpoint, if you were going to hold a creation standpoint, then it doesn't line up. But I do believe the author is not a young earth creationist. I think she's an old earth creationist. And so that's probably why. Then Then the only other problem I really had with it was how Islam is talked so heavily about. We just skip a lot of that stuff. I hit the main points to get the understanding of the Islamic Empire and things like that, but then we just skip a good chunk of it because it's a lot. Those are the only issues I've had with it. And those are very easily skipped or glossed over as a teacher. It also is a classical curriculum. It has a 4-year cycle. It has a separate activity book that goes with it, which has read aloud recommendations, including whether something's a picture book, whether something's for older readers, whether something's kind of like a bridge that you could read with all of them. It has like grade level recommendations for the books. It has meals that you could make. It has games that you can play. It has activities that you could do or crafts that you could do. It has map drills and coloring pages and all of the stuff. It's a really awesome curriculum. People get intimidated by it because they think you're supposed to do everything. But the whole point with it is that you just have a lot of options. So if you want to be the super crafty, creative mom that spends an hour doing all of the crafts and all of the read alouds and all of the activities and map drills and stuff, you can do that. If you want to be super simple and you just do the reading and maybe the map work, you can do that too. It gives you so many different options for whatever kind of homeschooler you are. I think I mentioned it is in a 4-year cycle, so you have ancients, medieval times, early, modern, and modern times. It is recommended to do from kindergarten. You can do it in kindergarten. I mean, I wouldn't start in kindergarten. I would start it maybe first. I don't start first. It's still a little early for me, but second, third grade or so. And then it can go, it's technically recommended up through like 6th, 7th grade, but it can totally be extended up through 8th grade. And I've actually seen people take it all the way into high school and have them do 2 books in 1 year and then do a lot of supplementing and adding a lot of readers and a lot of essays and things like that to make it a full history curriculum, which you can do because it makes an excellent spine. You just have to pad it a lot. So if I liked it so much, why did I switch away from it again? Okay, so again, like I said, there wasn't enough Bible in it, and I wanted, wake up, okay, I wanted more Bible. So after we did year 1, and then he did part of year 2, and because I didn't have enough Bible, and then I got into the part with Islam, and it kind of made me a little wary on continuing because I was trying to hand it to my let's see, he would have been in 6th grade. I was trying to hand it to my 6th grader because I had a lot of babies at that point, and I wanted to just hand it to him for him to do independently. And that was not working. And so I think that was, what did we switch to after that? I think that's whenever we started switching back into Masterbooks after that point.
Okay, so as I was editing, I realized that there was a gap between 6th grade and 8th grade. And I couldn't remember what it was that we were using until after I got done. And so it was Simply Charlotte Mason was what we used. And so my opinion real quick on Simply Charlotte Mason, it is a good curriculum. One, it's going to be hard to jump into if you are not very Charlotte Mason and if you're not used to reading the style of books that they offer. Because if you have typically read more modern books to your kids, they might have a hard time with some of like the story of the Greeks and things like that. It might be kind of a harder follow. Also, there was a lot of scripture reading. And so it was, I think, 3 to 4 chapters. Don't quote me because it's been a long time and I haven't looked at it lately. And so I think it was like 3 to 4 chapters and a day, plus the extra reading that you were doing on top of that. And so it was a lot of reading and a lot of scripture, which is great, except for it was just kind of hard to follow. And maybe I could have paced it out a little bit better with using um, an easier translation or a story Bible or something like that. However, I don't know, I was not in the mental space at that point. So I'm pretty sure the order that we went was Story of the World and then Simply Charlotte Mason. And then when Simply Charlotte Mason kind of was not a good fit, I think that's when we tried Mystery of History one of the times, and then, moving back into Masterbooks. And so it was a lot of hopping around on trying to find a curriculum, a history curriculum that fit well, like I said. So, that filled that gap. So back to the video.
So that gets us caught back up to where we are now. So then the other history curriculum that we have used with him is Notgrass for high school. I am not going to get super into this one because I do want to do a full video review on Notgrass. If you've seen my term 2 update for this school year, you will know I am not loving Notgrass, which I'm so disappointed by because I had been told that it was the best of the best. It was like the cream of the crop. World history for high school, it was the best, and I always would just kind of look longingly at it as I was scrolling in christianbook.com picking my curriculum, but it was so expensive. And so I couldn't pull the trigger on it. And then finally, I'm like, you know what? I've hated everything else. I'm going to spend the money because I know that this one is going to be good. But I have the same problems that I have with Mystery of History, is that it feels like Bible. But anyway, I'm not gonna get super into that. Knotgrass is not my favorite. In the next couple of weeks, I am gonna have a full video review of Knotgrass because I think it deserves its own separate video since we're currently doing it right now. And if you want more information on that one, just stay tuned. So for my younger batch of kids, I have pretty much stuck with the same thing. We started Story of the Worlds with my younger kids, and I was kind of trying to run Mystery of History alongside it. Wasn't working super great because it was too much reading. But like I said, I wanted to blend them together if I could. And then I heard about Biblioplan. So that was the only other curriculum we've used. This is the last one, I promise. So Biblioplan, I have a full review on, and I am going to link it in the cards for you. Because there's a lot to unpack with Biblioplan. Biblioplan is not a bad curriculum. I want to be very clear when I say that. It's not a bad. I don't believe the authors are heretics. It is just, I have some theological issues with it. If you want to know more about that, go watch that video because I went into a whole lot of detail on that in that video. But as far as the writing style was very good. I really loved that you could, go over mini grades because I wanted to be able to read it to all of my kids. And I was very excited because it was very well written and it was very beautiful. But then we had those theological issues that I talked about in my other video, and I had to unfortunately shelve it. So what are we doing now? Like I said, we are back into Story of the World. If you are new and you haven't been around my videos before, you might not have heard this yet. I am currently writing a supplement to go alongside Story of the Worlds that I am hoping and praying that I can release level 1 at the beginning of next school year because I love Story of the Worlds. I think it's such a beautiful curriculum. It is so engaging and it's so well written, and I really love it. I just wish it had the biblical timeline ran alongside it and church history ran alongside it as you get into upper grades. And so, or upper levels, not upper grades. But I am going to make what I can't find because I feel like I have tried many, many, many things. I think the only thing I haven't tried that I've been curious about was BJU and Generations. So those were the only two that I haven't tried, and I am not willing to try more things at this point. I'm just going to make it myself. That is what we are currently doing, and I'm very happy with how it's going and how the curriculum that I'm writing is coming together. It's going to give that balance that I'm searching for. And with having Story of the World, we're currently in early modern times. With Story of the World, it is a 10-minute read, and with the supplement I'm writing, it will be a 5-minute add-on to bring in the Bible and to bring in worldview, which is a big thing that I am yearning for in a curriculum, is that I want the worldview. I want my kids to understand that God's hand stretches out into all things, not just his church, but into the entirety of the world, and that He is orchestrating all things that come to pass, and His hand is on everything. And I want that within my history curriculum. So clearly that's why this question needed its own video, because there's so much to unpack when it comes to history curriculum, and there's so many different options. And I have tried many things, and that's my honest opinion over the ones that we have tried. I am still working on my Q&A series. When this goes live, I believe I will still be filming things. And so I have a filming plan for certain things. So there will still be opportunity to ask your questions, to get into my final Q&A video. So if you have a question, drop it in the comments and I might be able to include it in my answers for my next video. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not. And with all that being said, I will see you in the next one. Bye.